Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's episode of our lager series, we aim to unpack the arguably complicated Kellerbier. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us! So I think I agree with you there about Kellerbier.
Complicated.
It can be complicated. When I was doing my research on it, it's a little bit complicated. I think we can unravel this mystery enigma of a beer.
Yeah, because I think so. One of the beers that we're going to drink, I didn't really look at the style when I bought it. I read the description and I went, I like this, and I bought it. And I think I accidentally put two in my basket, and then I gave one to you. And this was well before we had this episode planned.
Yeah.
There's nowhere on it does it say that it's a Kellerbier. There was nothing that hinted. It didn't say on it. This is, but what I'm saying is it didn't say it on it. Yeah. So I didn't know. I didn't get it for that particular reason. And it wasn't until I was looking up what it was for something completely different that I found out, oh shit, it's actually a Kellerbier. And I was like, wow, I had no idea. And I was like, I didn't anticipate that. And then I feel like that's happened to me quite a lot. Or when we've looked into different like beer styles and I've been trying to Google these different lager styles, and then it'll be like Kellerbier. And I'm like, I'm so like, it led me down a rabbit hole of confusion. And I think I even said it on another lager episode that we did. I was like, I can't wait for us to unpack Kellerbiers because I've got questions. There's confusion. I was Googling myself. I did some preliminary Googling. And I was like, yeah, there's I felt like I wasn't speaking out of turn by saying I was a bit confused because there's just so many things that I felt came into play that I was like, oh, now I'm confused and I don't know what to think. So I'm hoping you can educate me today because I didn't look much beyond just a really high level overview, just to validate if what I already knew and what I was already confused by still stood.
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting one. I mean, from what I've read, having it from a can or a bottle is not the best way to do it. So I'll explain why that is in a minute.
Interesting.
Yeah, finding out information about Kellerbier. I think the thing with Kellerbier is Keller is a German word for cellar. So technically this beer style, air quotes, is cellar beer. So it started out its life really is it was the beers that came from the cellar. So we said before about back in the day when there wasn't any refrigeration, they would have cellars and caves maybe where they would keep the beer, especially lagers, because obviously they need to ferment at colder temperatures. And so this beer would come from the cellar, and it would potentially the vessel that's coming out of, maybe it was fresher, so it was slightly cloudier. It might be slightly darker. Like there's various different stories, as is always the way with these beer ones. You know, there are different ways that it's talked about. But a Kellerbier was unfiltered and or unpasteurized, so it's probably got a little bit of cloudiness to it. It's generally less clear and less clean tasting because there's still going to be a bit of that yeast that hasn't really dropped out as much as other fully fermented lagers, because you're pulling it off of the keg or whatever it's being stored in before it's necessarily fully finished. So it's from the information that I've been reading, which is why I find this interesting. The bits that I've read say that the best, like really the one place you can get a true Kellerbier is in Germany in beer gardens because it comes from the cellar.
Interesting.
Right? Although, I mean, we've got one of our beers today, Lost and Grounded Keller Pils, is billed as a Kellerbier. Braybrooke,
I've seen lots that are billed as Kellerbiers. Yeah.
So I think that this is why this is it can be a slightly complicated beer style.
It's why I said it was complicated, because I know that there was another one that we did, and it was like that. The particular style was this other kind of lager, and then it was like it's a Kellerbier, and then I was like, oh well, I'm so confused because I see that there are beers that are pitched as this is a Kellerbier,
Yeah.
And then there's other beers that are different types of lagers that then say like Kellerbier over it. So it makes more sense when we say like, this in the cellar. But that was what was throwing me off. Is I'm like, cool, this is actually style, like the style the guy that it's listing it as is a Kellerbier, and this one's just mentioning it in passing as the description on the can.
Maybe that's when they decide that it's like, unpasteurized and unfiltered. They call it a Kellerbier. Maybe that's an option as well. Also, I'm just going to confuse you a little bit further.
Oh, please do.
Because if you go look at BJCP guidelines, Kellerbier is there. There's a pale Kellerbier and there's an amber Kellerbier.
Yeah, I saw that as well. And then this is exactly why I wrote the intro as it did. And I was hoping that all the information that I saw was correct, because I had to validate, because you know me, I'm like, I need to make sure I validate myself 7 times over before I write any of that. Yep. And even when you joined, I was like, does that intro make sense to you? And you were like, yeah, it sure does. Yep. So I had the exact same thing where I was like, cool, we're adding more complexities and confusion to this matter. So hopefully, I mean, maybe we don't get definitive answers, but at least we'll have all the facts.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a variety of different facts. Let's put them together as you will. A really good article that I found about it was on Kegarator.com. I find that Kegarator.com's information about beer styles is pretty good. So I think it's a good source for you to go look at. That had both of the different colours listed on there. Like, I get complicated. It doesn't really, you don't really know why. There's just...
That's as complicated. I couldn't really explain why it was complicated, other than it was just...
No, it's just complicated.
Because what's really funny is, I feel like lager is kind of what is... When you think about lager, you think of lack of complications.
Yeah.
You think of, there's not much to hide behind. It's so straightforward.
It is
Kellerbier. So straightforward. It's the one lager that there's something to hide behind.
And then let's add another layer.
This is great. Let's keep going. One layer deeper.
Beers that we've got today. We've got the one that you got that you didn't know was a.
That I accidentally and it turned out to be.
Brau.
It turned out to be in the world's greatest beer book. I found out after flipping through that I accidentally pick absolute bangers of beers. I've picked so many ones by mistake, or had so many by mistake, quote unquote, she says. And then I've flipped through some of these books of the greatest beers list, not just that book, but other ones as well. And I've been like, I had that. Specifically bought that one because I wanted to try that one. It's like, how do I do it?
So we've got that one that is... Pronounce that because you looked it up.
I believe so. From the label, it is Au.
It's a U. It's just you.
No.
English, but... Yeah.
There's an A on this label. There's an A next to it, really small, but not on this label. On the one that I'm looking at on the website, there's got
a U on it. Just to see, confusing.
Well, I'm wondering if the background. Well, no,
no, it's like a little angel.
I was going to say interesting, but I was wondering if that was intended to maybe take up the A, but it's on that one as well. So no, this one has an A and then a U after it, and it says AHH space. Oh. Ow.
There we go. So we've got that one. And then we've got Kellerbiers from Lost and Grounded. And then at the weekend, we picked up this beer, which is Cloudwater and Braybrooke, and it is a Zwickl.
I thought that would make it a bit more interesting, just to add more dimensions of confusion.
So, next layer, Zwickl beer. Zwickl beer is also a sub-style of Kellerbier.
How far down does this family tree go?
And so Zwickl beer is supposed to be a younger, weaker, less hop forward, and usually darker version of a Kellerbier. It isn't allowed the same maturation time as a Kellerbier. Also, another sub-style could be Zwickl beer. But it says that it's very difficult to tell that apart from a Zwickl beer. Just other than Kellerbier, it's less hoppy, it's weaker, it's darker, it's more carbonated, and it's served younger.
Well, hold that phone.
Maybe
we'll get into that in a future episode. Who knows?
We'll look at Zwickl beers, but anyway, that's the beers we've got. There are 2 different ones, whether it's a light or an amber. Shall we crack one of these? we can try and determine which of all of these things it is. This is going to be a fun guessing game.
Because I'm not confused at all.
Yeah. Right, interestingly, I've just gone and had a look. So I was just saying to Tori, because I've cut that big chunk of me trying to work things out.
It's complicated.
It's complicated. Again, another layer we're going to put in here of complication for this beer style. So I use an app on my phone for the BJCP beer styles. There's a really good one that I've always used. I used it when I was studying for my Cicerone. You
recommended it to me, and it was really good.
Recommended it to you, really good. That one that I really liked is the good one, has the 2015 style guidelines on it. Very end, like December of 2021, they updated. They're supposed to be updated every 3 years, but because of COVID, it got put. No, every 3 to 5 years they update them. Should have been updated in 2021. Because of COVID, they didn't get updated. They then put out an update right at the end of 2021, which made me take my exam super quick because they were changing the.
Oh no!
Because we'd learned everything from the 2000.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine learning all that and then you missed it by like a day?
Right, and they were like, and August we're updating the syllabus, and you have to, if you take your exam after August 2022, your syllabus will be different. And it was like, I've learned all of this stuff now. So I took my exam very quickly, luckily passed it. Interestingly, on the 2015 guidelines, Kellerbier was in category 7, which is amber bitter European lager, along with Vienna lager and alt beer. And there was Kellerbier Pale, and Kellerbier Amber was in that category. In the 2021 update, Kellerbier has completely been removed from that category. And then that's why I was like, oh, let me just go see where that's gone, because it's moved. And the app that I use isn't updated to 2021. There's a separate app, which is also called Beer Styles. And they've got loads of different, that's got the Brewers Association guidelines in it as well. So another good app to have on your phone. So I just had a quick look at that, and Kellerbier has now been moved to historical beer.
Interesting.
It is, it's now in category 27, historical beer.
It's what I find really interesting about that, actually, is because I think when I tend to think of like historical beer, like you don't tend to, I don't feel like I tend to associate historical beer with something that I see quite regularly and quite common, whereas I feel like I regularly see things billed as a Kellerbier, whether that's the style or it's just a description. I feel like I see Kellerbier quite a lot, and I don't feel like normally with these different historic beer styles that I see all of them quite as common, or at least the majority of them. So that's why that's quite interesting that they've moved it to a historic beer style as opposed to, I don't know, interesting.
And then if you look at Kellerbiers on Untapped, the style that the category that they're in on Untapped is Kellerbier Zwickl beer. So that's not like they say on it, if it's historical style, they've got a different chunk that's historical styles. Like it's not considered a historical style on Untapped still. So this is where I don't even want to go look at the Brewers Association one, because goodness knows where that is on there. There are so many different ones. This takes us back again to
it's complicated.
We made up beer styles. And brewers are going to brew what they want. But when we look at Kellerbier for BJCP under historical Kellerbier, it says the original Kellerbier is a Marzen type lager from the Franconian region of Germany. But other traditional versions are based on Munich Helles and Dunkel lagers, which is why we've got the different colours. Variations based on Pils are a more modern invention with a wider international following and higher production. So you can get a Kellerbier that's like a Marzen, a Kellerbier that's like a Helles, a Kellerbier that's like a Dunkel, and a Kellerbier that's like a Pils. And all of those are quite different as we are exploring through this lager range.
So I think the thing that makes it more confusing is like and I'm sure that this is probably more so how it is used in a lot of scenarios where it's more like to describe a particular, like you should be going, this is a whatever style lager, right, and it is a Kellerbier because to be a Kellerbier, these are the things that it ticks this box, which is I'm guessing how it is, but I find that it gets billed as its own, obviously its own style, and it's listed as a style guide, but that almost makes it more confusing because it's not It's not even close to being black and white.
No. So
It's it can be anything and everything, and
I think the overall information here in the 2021 style guides is quite good. So I think maybe they've taken it out because actually they've realised it's complicated and they've tried to make it more simple for people. And also, like a historical beer, you're going to get kind of tested on that less when you're using the BJCP guidelines for things, because obviously a historical beer is less well available and things like that. So it says on the overall impression, an unfiltered, unpasteurized, fully attenuated German lager traditionally served from lagering vessels. Again, we've got these in cans and bottles, so we're debunking that. Maybe a little richer, more robust and rustic than the base styles. A fresh beer without fermentation defects associated with young green unfinished beer. So it is a finished beer. It's just a little bit less mature than your other ones. Got a bit more yeast in it.
I like that description. It feels like I feel like I can relate.
Feel like that's you?
It's like finished, but maybe not as mature. I'm finished, but maybe slightly less mature. I relate. To you, Kellerbier.
I reckon.
And I'm complicated.
You are complicated. You are. I reckon we crack some of these bad boys and see if we can guess what their base style is.
All right, that sounds good. I feel like this is in the game as well. Like when we were talking about who would the different Buffy characters be in beer styles. It's like, who would we be in beer styles? I might, like, based on what you've just said, I might be a Kellerbier. All things considered.
Right,
I'm really excited for this.
We're starting with the Mahrs Brau.
Ow. Ow. The label, can I just, as we're pouring this, can I just say what the label translated to?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if this is the exact translation or not that's on the can, because I haven't done this, but this is what is on all the websites. It says, this is why I bought it, was because I read this and I went, hell yeah. It says, the U stands for Ungespunddet. I can't say that like you can probably say that. Which means unfiltered and outrageously good. Simply pronounced, an extraordinary yeast turbid specialty beer with a full-bodied smooth malt character, pleasantly tart and lightly carbonated. It is a beer that goes just as well with a good meal as it does with a relaxing evening after work. Did somebody say cult beer? And I was like, yeah. And then it says tradition and craftsmanship for us. These are not just selling points, most definitely not myths. We are a family-owned and operated business run with a conviction and passion for over 4 generations. We've been doing it simply for the sheer pleasure and enjoyment of our work. And I was like, all of this, I love all of this. I love all of it. And then I was like, the labels, like, I quite like how straightforward the label is.
Yeah.
I loved what it said on the label from the description on the website. I was like, I'm having it. I relate.
It looks beautiful. I'd say it's a little bit light for a Marzen. Probably the right colour for a fest beer.
That's beautiful, that colouring and that head level. Look at
and
that.
You can see, like, it's not quite clear. Like, you can see that there's something in suspension in that liquid.
Yes.
Which is just yeast.
But it's so, like, it just looks like super, super tiny, teeny tiny little particles, yeah.
It smells bready and toasty.
It's my favourite smell.
Yeah.
It's literally my favourite beer smell.
That really good smell.
My favourite lager smell.
Like, ooh.
It's the bready. That's my favourite lager smell in the world.
Should we sip on it?
Yeah, we should. Let's go for
Prost.
it. Prost.
Oh yeah.
I will say, oh yeah, that's amazing. The other reason I've got it is, like, on the front of it, it says Bamberger Specialitat or whatever. But I saw Bamberger and I went, that's the one.
Yep,
I just went, gonna have it. Compared to that seems to be what I really enjoy. Having it.
The brewery is in Bamberg.
Yeah, I was like, having it.
Yeah.
That was all I needed to hear. It's all I needed to hear. And I was like, yep.
I do think it's, like, fuller and richer.
I feel like there's a very noticeable, like, the bitterness is noticeable, but I'm usually, as I've said many a time, I'm much more, like, I am quite sensitive to bitter, but the way it lands, like with that grainy, like toasty element, the way it lands with that feels like it just works so well. Like it works so harmoniously, and it just makes it really nice and rich for sure.
5.2%.
Very easy drinking.
Yeah. Ooh, I like it.
I like the back as well. It says what the hops. I can tell enough that it says what the hops are. Hallertau
Perle.
And I'm guessing that's the bitterness level, so it's on the lower end. Like, if you look at the video, not only can you see my amazing late 80s, early 90s dungies, but you can see the back of this label as well. I quite like that, and how it's got like the hops rating for the. I'm guessing that has to translate to bitterness for sure.
Yeah, I would say so.
But yeah, it's got the hops listed. I'm guessing that's the wheat. I quite like that. That's cool.
It's delish.
It's really enjoyable.
I mean, anytime I've ever had a beer that's like, air quotes, Kellerbier, I've always enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, but I think, I just knew, I was like, it's in Bamberg, I'm going to enjoy it, aren't I?
Do you reckon that's a pale or an amber?
I would say it's close, for me, I would say closer to an amber, probably.
Really?
I think so. I think it's a little bit. I don't think it's fully there, but I think it's kind of in the middle. I would say if I had to go one side or the other, it'd be hard. But I think I'd say, like, for me, I think that would be in the middle.
I suppose it's got the more toastier flavours of a darker lager. Interesting. I'd be interested to see what the other ones look like compared to it.
It's really hard because I just want to keep drinking that. This is like really properly fit. What's really funny is this feels like the first time that we're going into like a style episode, and you're like, here, let's lay out all the facts and figures and all that. But like, there's so many conflicting facts and figures that we're having to play a guessing game with style guidelines. And that is what I think is fab. Is the fact that we're like, cool, we've got the style guidelines. Which part of that do you think it is? We don't know. Like, because it's not like because I think like you have other ones where you might be like, here's a style, and then there's like a sub style or whatever, and it will say, oh, it's this style, this subcategory of that particular style. So you can go, oh, I kind of know what to expect from that. This is just a bit like, if it just says Kellerbier, I have no idea. And this bottle being a brown glass bottle, it's not like I can work out, or the cans, it's not like I can work out, like, this is what to expect. I can only liken it to when we get into that whole, like, fest beer, that whole, like, debacle. And it's like, you know, you get a can of that, and then you just go, this is not it. This is not the one.
Not the one.
Not the one.
It's not what I was expecting when I opened it. Although I feel like you can guarantee that a Keller beer will be delish.
Oh, completely.
I mean, obviously Festbeer and Mahrs are delicious as well. But if I'm after
if you're after one and you get the other,
Festbeer, I'm always like, if you are new here, listeners,
you would have heard us talk about it every Oktoberfest.
If you are not new here, I apologise. I'm bringing it up yet again, but it is the hill I will die on. Is that Mahrs should be a Mahrs and a Festbeer should be a Festbeer.
Why can't Mahrs just taste like Mahrs?
Why can't Mahrs taste like Mahrs?
Can make you a t-shirt with that.
Yes, I will wear it. I will wear it, and I will wear it in Germany.
Oh, God, that would be excellent. I would love that.
Right, let's crack open this Keller Pils and let's do a little comparison, shall we? Because I think that's the best way forward with this beer style.
Right, I'm going to put this to the side. Save that for later. And got my Keller Pils. I've had this many. I have had this many times. Because for me, this is available in supermarkets. I'm not in Bristol. I imagine it's even more sort of like readily available around the Bristol area. But I know exactly where I can go to get this locally in a supermarket near me, and I have gotten it before because I've actively wanted it and seeked it out. I really like this one personally,
and I feel like, you know, whenever you pick up a beer that's lost and grounded, it is going to be great.
Absolutely.
Like, they're a solid brewery. You know that these beers are going to be really good, no matter what it is. Like at Bristol Craft Beer Festival, I had their think I had their Goes. Oh,
The Goes was really nice. Yeah, the Goes
so
was
good.
really
TV
nice.
Party, I think it was called.
Yep.
So good. I had like a fruity Berliner Weiss from them at one
What's like
point.
when it's a lager, you know that you're just like this is their wheelhouse. This is what they do. When it's something that's not a lager, you can still guarantee it's going to be good.
Yeah, you know you're going to get a good beer from there.
And I have felt like, I'm not suggesting that everybody that puts stuff out in supermarkets by any means is sacrificing quality over, that is not what I'm suggesting. But I think there is a stigma overall that's like, oh, when things get to distribution level of you can get it more easily accessible in a supermarket, sometimes there are people that feel like the quality goes down, and then there are instances where that is valid.
Yeah.
But I feel like any Lost and Grounded that I've had from a supermarket has been just as good as kind of the quality has been. Like, I don't feel like they go, well, we have to make cuts to make sure that it not that I think anyone's really thinking that, but that there are bigger breweries that probably do that. I don't feel they go into it going, oh, it's always been very good. So
all right,
big Lost and Grounded fan.
Crack this open. See what the difference is between the two.
What do you think? Where do you think it's going to sit colour-wise? I'm trying to rack my memory and I can't remember what it physically looks like, because I've had a lot of Lost and Grounded.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I feel like it's paler, and it is indeed. Oh, it's very pale. This is definitely pale.
This is This is the exact reason as well. The ones like this that I remember having, which is why when you said, "Oh, is it amber or pale?" I've said this is more towards the amber.
Actually. Yeah.
As I was like, this doesn't look quite remotely pale enough for me for this to be pale.
Yeah.
Look at the head on that one.
Because it's it's got a really great head on it, and I think because it's Kellerbiers hot bitter lager, I think probably this is we could potentially surmise that this is a German Pils base, maybe.
Mm. It doesn't smell quite as like
it's grainy.
It's more grainy than it is like toasty bready goodness. And I would say that when you're looking at them next to each other, while this one still has that slight haze to it, I don't feel like the Lost and Grounded one looks like it has those little particles like floating in it in the same way
I'd agree.
that the Mahrs Brau does. I think it's still hazy. It's definitely still got that touch to it, but it doesn't look like it's actually got proper...
Yeah.
Whereas this looks like there's stuff suspended in it. The Kellerbiers does not.
Oh, there's a little bit of lemony note to it as well.
Yeah, I was going to say a slight citrus pop. I would even almost say, not just lemony, I would almost say like potentially a touch of like grapefruit, like a little kiss of grapefruit in there. Right.
Oh, it smells good.
Sip.
Prost.
I feel like that's every time we have any style like that. Prost.
Oh, so
it's just so much light. Like, it feels lighter.
Yeah.
It feels lighter and more. I feel like I could drink them both in a high volume, but this one feels like the Kellerbiers feels like you could have it just a little bit longer without feeling full.
Yeah, I feel like the other one's got that richness, which is the reason why Mahrs stopped being the top beer of.
I don't care what anyone says. I could have that for days. Right? So,
but I think you could definitely drink more of this. It's got that real like rustic loaf breadiness, crackeriness to it that I really enjoy.
I think there's more of that, like the crackeriness is towards the back end. Like initially, it's definitely like that grainy bit, and then you get that heavier cracker like at the back end. And there's a bitterness, but it's very, very, very subtle. In comparison, the bitterness here is a lot more subtle. I think
lovely, sweet, grassy hop notes in there. I like it.
I would argue more delicate, probably, in flavours. And I think even though we said there's kind of that citrus pop to it in the aroma, you don't really get that in the flavour itself. I don't, anyways. I don't really get as much of that. No, I don't. It's way more obvious in the aroma than it is in the taste.
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, I suppose part of the refreshing note of it is probably a little bit that citrus, but it's much more
It's not as It's not as obviously identifiable.
Yeah, as identifiable as in the aroma. It's lovely.
It is really easy drinking. Would pair. I mean,
back on a sunny day.
Absolutely. I feel like in the sun, that would. I mean, I feel like both of these so far would be my choice, because I think the Mahrs Brau would make me feel like I was on holiday.
Yeah.
This makes me just feel like I could enjoy this in the sun with snacks.
I love how rich German beers make you feel like you're on holiday.
And I've never been to Germany.
And you like to point out that you've never been to Germany. That
I
makes me laugh.
I haven't, but it gives me holiday vibes, because I think that sometimes tends to be like if I go on holiday someplace in Europe, depending on where it is, depending on where I'm going, what I'm doing, I tend to go more for that style of beer if I'm out and about. Not so much in more recent years, where I think some of the places I've gone to have had more development with craft beer, but when you're in areas where there's not a lot of hype craft beer, I feel like you can always get classic German lagers and whatever else. So that tends to be maybe why I put it together with holiday. But yeah, I'm a big fan of both of them. Which one so far? Do you have one style that you gravitate more than the other? Because I think for me, I don't think I could choose. It would be like choosing between your favourite children. You're I like them both, and it depends on the day. Some days you're like, this one's top tier, and the other ones you're like, today you're terrible, and I like your sibling better, and that's just how it is. But I think it just depends on what I'm doing, and the vibe depends on which of these two that I think I'd be ordering at the bar.
Definitely. It depends on what mood I'm in. It depends on who I'm with and what I'm doing. Do I want to sip it and really taste and properly taste it, or am I out with friends and I'm drinking something that's tasty, but I'm concentrating on my time with them rather than the complexity of the beer in my glass? They both have their place.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think either of them for me are sticking around particularly long.
This is true.
They're both very tasty.
Yeah. Do you want to hear a little bit more about Kellerbier that I found out from the Oxford Companion to Beer?
Oh, go on then.
So, interestingly, if you go back in the day to when Kellerbier was being
back
made,
it up,
right? It says from the Oxford Companion to Beer that if it's brewed true to style, the Kellerbier has very little carbonation, because it was traditionally matured in wooden casks without a bung. So kind of almost a bit like cask beer.
Yeah, it was just, I wasn't, because I'm not as much of an expert on cask beer and I don't drink as much cask beer, I was going to say that makes me feel like that is similar to cask beer, but I know that I know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was not willing to say it definitively, so at least that's proven to me as well that I was not on the wrong train of thought.
Yep. So then if it was transported, then they'd put a bung in it, much like cask beers. Nowadays they are usually fermented in stainless steel fermenters, and then as we have them today, they can be bottle kegged, canned, so they can be sent much further afield. They used to be between 5 and 5.3%. Nowadays they think they contain less alcohol, and they might be mildly filtered. So the Mahrs Brau was...
That's 5.2 and this one's 4.8.
Oh, there we go. So, yeah.
I love the label on this one as well. It's such a nice, peaceful label.
It says here that enthusiasts, especially in Franconia, feel that Kellerbiers make great aperitifs when served to stimulate the appetite before dinner.
I can see... Well, that wouldn't be where my brain would go. I can see how that is a thing, because this one in particular, this Lost and Grounded one in particular, I feel like it's got my my salivary glands going with the... I don't know, I guess maybe it is a little bit of that bitterness.
I mean, when I'm in Germany, I like a pre-dinner beer.
I mean, I do too. I feel like all these flavors that come together when I too am in Germany, but I feel like when all these flavors just come together, it is definitely making me just I could just snack on something.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so I think so far, we've done a pale and an amber. I think we can say we've done that.
Tick.
Shall we now crack the Zwickl?
We shall.
And see what that's all about. So this is Cloudwater and Braybrooke. We've definitely, I feel like we definitely, throughout these series, we are definitely hitting all the really good lager
all of them.
breweries.
Oh, this one's a bit foamy.
She is a little bit foamy. All right. Oh, it's definitely pale.
Yep.
It's 5% ABV, mind.
Interestingly, I would say it's not exactly middle ground between the two. It is closer to the pale end, but I would say it's, if you're looking at the video right now, it's in the middle of it.
It's not as pale.
I'm physically holding it in the middle. It's not as pale, but it's definitely not as amber.
Ooh. Give that a sniff and tell me what you think.
It smells floral.
Yeah.
To me. That's interesting. Not what I was expecting. From this initial smell, it smells more almost a bit like a little bit of citrus, like lemony citrus and floral notes. Not so much any grainy biscuit, any toasty, bready, like none of that. It is more just lemony and floral.
And floral. Right, so I've read the can.
Oh, okay.
And I can tell you what that is. So this is a fresher take on the traditional Kellerbier style. Made with Braybrooke, uses Bavarian yeast, malt and hops, and brewing processes, but was fermented on the hops for a delicate but bright hop character. So that's why we're getting more of those hops, because of the technique that they used when fermenting it. Doesn't say what ones.
I was just going to say, does it say what hops? But I don't
so we know that Pale Ale was in the first one. Lost and Grounded used Magnum, Pale Ale, and Hallertau Mittelfrüh. Let me see if I can look this up and see if it will tell us, because that would be useful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
Wonder if it tells us. It does not.
Of course it doesn't. This is like, I love Cloudwater, I love Braybrooke. But what I don't love is when you just want to know, like, what is... Because it makes it really hard when it says, to bring out the hop like, I wouldn't even normally mind, with the exception of it says, to bring out the hop character. Yeah. But then you're like, the hop character of what hop?
Yeah.
I just want to know what hop.
Come on, you know that we're beer geeks. We want to know these things.
I do want to know these things. And when people don't care, I'm like, why don't you care more? Care more.
I mean, people, we assume that if you're listening to us, that you also care.
And it's if you don't, that's equally okay, because I probably care enough for the both of us, and that's fine. But I like that nerdy stuff, because I like digging into it and then be like, do I get this? Do I get that? Where is this coming from? Have I got that right? Have I got it wildly wrong? Or is it just coming off really, am I more sensitive to a particular thing than another thing?
Yeah.
But I can't do that when you don't tell me what the hops are.
No, it does not say. Just did a quick Google as well.
I'm sure we could probably message on Instagram or something and ask the question, but it'll be too late. It'll be gone by then.
We don't know.
It's not going to last that long.
Traditional Bavarian hops, then it's probably one of the Hallertaus. Probably maybe some Perle. Like it's probably the same hops, but we can't tell you for certain, dear listener, because we can't find that information.
All right, we can drink in it now.
Yes, we can.
Prost. It's like, don't you forget. Don't you go quiet on me.
It's definitely more citrusy, florally, hoppy.
I'm taking a minute to just process it. Because actually, I find this is more complex almost than I thought it was. So yes, I got the... what I'm getting was also in the aromas. I think even though sometimes you have those aromas, when you go in your head, it's, especially if it's like some form of a lager, you kind of just go, you almost don't expect some of this type of complexity that I'm getting from, I think with everything we just had, which they were amazing.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to have this much depth of flavours.
Yeah. It's far more complex in its flavours. I'm wondering, because you're really getting that, like, florally,
I'm going to do this technique. Hold on.
Oh, she's swallowing, holding her nose and then breathing out. This is the technique where you can nearly spit it out.
I almost spat it out. I almost spat it out, not because of the technique. I almost spat it out because of how you chose to phrase that with no context if someone's just listening to this. And it made me, because like with Kellerbier, I'm not fully mature. So when you say stuff like that, it's gonna make me chuckle because I'm not fully mature.
What I said.
You went, she's swallowing, and then I lost it and almost spat it out.
I apologise, listeners.
It almost went to rude territory. Joanne. Yeah, there's just like such a sweet, I would say, like my descriptors for this one would, like, the things that jump out that shout at me the most are floral and like a sweetness to it. I wouldn't say sweet, but a sweetness to it compared to the other two that we had. Like, they don't have that same level of sweetness for me.
So this is what I wonder. So a Zwickl beer is a younger version, like a less mature version of the Kellerbier. So I'm wondering if that fermenting on the hops is then, and it is giving you those more complex flavours, it's giving you like a grassy, herbally, citrusy hop note. And if you have got a younger beer, you're going to get more grassy hop from it. So I'm wondering if that technique is there because, you know, to kind of emulate what you would get if you were drawing it off of the tank before it is fully mature.
What I think is potentially interesting as well is this one is a 5%, whereas the Lost and Grounded, for example, being the 4.8%. So it sits in the middle of them because the Mahrs Brau is the 5.2, the Kellerbiers is a 4.8, and this is bang on 5. So literally slap bang in the middle of it. And I would actually say, like, out of all of them, this tastes probably like it was a lower, like, in my opinion, it tastes like a lower ABV than that.
It feels slightly thinner.
Yeah, but I don't think it's even that. I think it's just like, because it's the lighter, sweeter notes, the way they're landing. Like, I would have guessed that out of all of them, this was the lowest ABV.
I think I could drink less of this one than the other two.
I need another sip to determine that. I don't know how to just, because like Love Hearts isn't the way I want to describe it, but that is what's sticking out in my brain. Like, I know what you mean. Oh, what are those called? The little like purple.
The Parma Violet.
Parma Violets, like that is. I don't know why, because it's not that sweet. Like, I think if I were to describe it that way, people would immediately be like, "Oh, really? Sugar?" It's like no. But that's the thing that keeps popping every time I have a sip, and the breathe out. Like when I'm just here, I've swallowed my sip of it. It is just
right.
Like the lasting flavour in my head. I'm just going Love Heart / Parma Violet.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
No, I totally get that.
Smarties for the American crowd. Smarties is what I'm thinking of.
I think that's the thing, because I feel like this one's more carbonated.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel like I would drink less of it. Just personally. That's
I almost don't. Hold on, let me go back round, because I almost don't know if it is that much more carbonated for me.
It just feels on the tongue like it's got more carbonation in it.
Hang on. I'm going back through, but I needed some water first. Oh, it's really weird having them all back to back, because they are so. This is like the most
they're all different
parallel universe, because it's like we're doing a lager series of a particular style, and I'm like, they're all so wildly different, but all of them are exactly as they're supposed to be. Like, it is just Kellerbier. Oh, I really do feel like if I'm gonna, this is the beer style that I would have least least associated myself with, but actually feel like having done this episode is probably the closest to me personally as a person. Okay. I love it. But yeah, I think, I don't even know if I would say it's the least carbonated for me. Like,
the most
carbonated for me. It is, there's like a tiny touch, but that's not what would be a description for me. I think why I couldn't drink this as much as the other two, or for as long as the other two, because I actually really quite enjoy this. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit, is like refreshing in its own way. I think for me, I'd struggle to drink this in a higher volume. Because of that floral and that sweetness element is not, there is almost, the other two, the flavors that are there are what you can just, they pair with so many different things. There's nothing that's really sticking out that doesn't pair with a variety. Whereas, like, I don't know if I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this in a way that it doesn't sound, because that's not, I don't mean it in the way that it probably sounds that I'm explaining it, but like a florally element to it is a more bold characteristic that you have to pair more carefully with other things. So it's like, I couldn't just be like, I'm gonna have any snack right now and have this. And it also feels like that flavor after a while, like it would just be a lot. It's really lovely as a can or even a few, but if you were at an Oktoberfest, for example, like where you're just drinking all day, like, could I have just that all day? I don't know. I think it might end up being a bit much for me.
I think it's a treat, or like that's a Zwickl, I'm going to try that.
Palate cleanse in between.
Yeah. I don't think you do sesh of it.
No. I don't think I could session that in the same way.
Fair.
But I think that is is also what comes with it having the more layered, complex flavors to it, is like you shouldn't, it's not meant to necessarily be sessioned in the same way.
Do you want a fun fact?
Yeah, I absolutely exclusively always only tell me fun facts.
Right, so I've got to find this now so I say it correctly. So why are they called Zwickl beers?
It's a fun name, isn't it?
Yeah,
Zwickl.
so it's because, like, so as we've said, they're less mature. They're taken off of the barrel, the cask, the fermenting vessel, and the little spout that's used to do that is called a Zwickl, I believe. Just double checking that I've pronounced it correctly, because you know how good we are at pronouncing things.
We do our best. But there's always going to be that one person that's like, why didn't you Google it and still be able to pronounce it in the in the original dialect? Yeah.
So I found this other good article on alcoholprofessor.com that's written by Em Sauter, who is
yes.
And she went through.
Share that shit.
Yeah, we'll do that. And then she's like, "What's a Zwickl beer? Is it the same?" Again, various different thoughts on it, but it's thought that it's a fresh version of a Kellerbier, and it refers to a sample off the tank, as the pigtail used to siphon the beer is called a Zwickl. Remember, in beer, this is great. Thank you, Em, for this brilliant. I think this sums up the episode perfectly. Remember, in beer, there are a lot of right answers. Thank you, Em. That is exactly what this episode's been about. All the right answers, and they're all correct.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That is deep, and it resonates with me. And yeah, I don't disagree. But yeah, no, these have been, it's just really interesting to see. And so we do have another one that we're not drinking today. Maybe a bonus episode. Yeah, I was just gonna leave it.
I will out myself. It's been a week.
I'm waiting for that. Like, what was great was the fact that when we both showed up with two completely different beers, at least we had all the same beers today. I just had one extra one.
Yeah, you just had an extra one.
But yeah, let's, we might just decide we can't wait, we just want to drink it. Yeah. Or maybe it'll be a bonus episode. We'll see. But it'll be really interesting because, again, this one, so I've had beers of theirs, but not the Kellerbier.
Yeah.
And this one's also in a brown glass bottle, so
dark
no way of working it out. So that's gonna be fun to find out what that is, and I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest.
Yeah, more tasty German beer. What's not to like?
Oh, I love German beer, and I hate that I just like it's what I find really interesting is like the amount of this is a bit of a tangent, but you know what? You've got a shorter episode today, so be happy. We were pretty sure. I think because it's been
we've been succinct.
They're all right answers. There's so much.
We've been succinct in confusing you even more about Kellerbiers.
This is the shortest episode, but probably arguably the most confusing episode. Yes. So I feel like I'm okay to tangent on this, but like what's really interesting is just when people are always like, oh, we love the German beers because of how it's just so straight to the point, and so there's no frills. It is, not Kellerbiers. But like I enjoy just a really good, no frills, straight to the point German beer just as much as I enjoy a big imperial smoothie or smoothie sour or pastry stout or whatever. Like I enjoy all them things, or like
all the beers,
or like like a Dutch. Like I will enjoy a Flanders red,
a Duchess,
and then be like, oh, those complexities though, and then be like, but also today I just want to have a no frill, straightforward Reinheitsgebot. Like that is, I'm like, this is. Like both things, and I feel like Kellerbier really sums that up in the sense of like, what is it? What really is it? It is many things, and we can appreciate them all in all of their formats. So
we can.
This is it says a lot about our podcast, not just about me as an individual, but us as a podcast. It's like no matter what format you are of a Kellerbier, we still love you. And you're still welcome here.
You're welcome on
and we don't care if you're under guidelines number 7, guidelines number 20.
If they lead you to 27, if you've been bumped.
If they did you dirty, if they're calling you old and historic, we don't care. We love you.
We still love you.
There we go. I mean, there's really not much else. This has been a very succinct. Normally, people get us like around. We have to cut it off at an hour and a half. This is like, if we hit 45 minutes, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah.
Because it's Kellerbier.
I mean, so, dear listeners, if you've got more questions for us about Kellerbier, you can send them to us and we can look into it. Tori,
the answers are all yes.
The answers are all yes. If you wanted to ask Tori those questions, then the answer will be yes. Tori, where can they get hold of you?
I will just straight up be like, yes. If you want to just talk to me about how much more I feel like I really relate to a Kellerbier, even though this is probably not the style I would choose to relate to, it's just the one that I do relate to. You can find me on Instagram at adventures_in_optimism, or you can email some suggestions in of great Kellerbiers to try. All different varieties. We'll play a guessing game. Like, just let us know. Maybe we'll buy more and we'll just do a guessing game. Although we can't really do that because there's no real right answer. So it will just be us guessing and being like, I guess we're right because we've guessed it.
All the answers are correct.
They're all correct. You can email in at adventuresinoptimism@gmail.com. If you want to suggest ones for both of us to try, you can find us both on A Woman's Brew on Instagram, Facebook, X, but we're realistically not going to be there. Or you can, we don't really go there. It's like the Lion King, and they're like, it's everywhere the light touches, and they're like, what's over there? And we're like, that's X, and we're like, don't go there. That's not the place. We just don't. But you can still try. Maybe we will.
Instagram.
I don't know. But yeah, Instagram's better really for us. But yeah, you can also email us in suggestions for, I don't know, Kellerbiers or just breweries we should try, or just help justify the fact that we should really go to Bamberg, if I'm being completely honest.
We do go to Bamberg. We do.
That could be the one. Email us at awomensbrewpodcast@gmail.com. Joe, if people want to ask you, because you are far more the person that you did the research for this one, I did not do really any research for this one, where can people ask you and become more confused?
The research for this one was quite difficult, so I apologise, dear listeners, because it was very confusing. Hopefully we've cleared up some things.
Or we didn't. This is my disappointing affirmations. I'm like, maybe we cleared up things. Maybe we didn't.
Maybe we didn't.
One of those things.
Maybe we're just telling you to go drink delicious beer and don't worry about it. These are all delicious beers. Just go drink them. Let's not worry about it. You can come and ask me any question about beer that you would like at my beer school, which is Love Beer Learning. And I am on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Pinterest. But realistically, you're going to find me on Instagram. So come over there. You can come to my website. I've done 3 blog posts this year.
I'm so proud of you because that is more than I probably did in all of last year when that was my goal.
So you can go over to my website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk. Check out my blog there. There's going to be stuff about beer styles and stuff there that you can have a look at. Or you can email me, lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. Let us know what else you want to hear from us, because we want to make things that you want to listen to.
Wow.
Right, let's go finish these delicious beers.
Cheers.